So 15 men's fragrances that never go out of style. Are you up for this video? We've got some really great men's fragrances. These are all targeted to men. And we're going back to 1882. That's the first fragrance we're going to talk to you about. And then we're going all the way to 2021, I believe, for the most modern fragrance that is in this video. But the majority of these are more modern, but we do have some classics that never go out of style. So find out about these fragrances coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's Sebastian. I'm talking about 15 men's fragrances that never go out of style. These fragrances are still chugging along. Some are very modern. They've just been launched, but a lot of these are classics as well. I should say not a lot, but there's several that are classics and are still smelling great today. So some of the ones that were launched really a long time ago have most likely been reformulated to modern standards. But there's some really great fragrances here that I think if you don't know about classic men's fragrances, you're going to want to find out about it. And also, this is a series of 1 or 2 different videos. I'm going to do maybe 3, because there's a lot of great men's fragrances out there that I want to highlight here on the channel, especially if you're looking to find some really great offerings for men. These are mostly designers, some niche here as well, but let's go ahead and get started. First fragrance we're going to talk to you about is from the house of HOUBIGANT. This is Fougere Royale, one of the very first Fougere fragrances, barbershop style, utilizing aromatic notes like lavender and geranium. So Fougere in French means fern, and when they first created a Fougere, they were trying to recreate the smell of a fern if a fern plant had a smell. So there's a faint smell there. So I think what they were trying to go after was to amplify that smell into a fragrance. And what they did is really great. Parquet created the initial fragrance, and then in 2010, HOUBIGANT brought it back, recreated or redone by Rodrigo Flores-Roux. It's lavender with geranium, oakmoss, green notes, chamomile, carnation, clary sage, tonka beans, patchouli, cinnamon, and bergamot. So this is a very green herbal aromatic fragrance. It has a lot of citrusy touches as well. And in the dry down, it's woody and a bit ambery as well. It's one of the best Fougere fragrances out there. If you haven't tried it, definitely try it. It's, again, one of the fragrances that never goes out of style. And again, it's not gone out of style because it's still around since the late 1800s. So moving forward to 1934, we've got a fragrance created by Ernest Daltroff, and in 10 years we're going to celebrate 100 years of this fragrance. This is CARON's Pour un Homme de CARON, this one right here. Are you familiar with this one? This is also a bit on the Fougere style, utilizing lavender once again. I think these are the kind of notes and ingredients that they used quite a bit of in the older days. And again, to this day, this still smells great. And this is a fragrance my dad wore. So this is actually a fragrance that means a lot to me because I really remember him when I smell it. It's Lavandin, lavender, rose essence, vanilla, musk, Opoponax, and Styrax. And so it's aromatic herbal notes up top, settles to warm, ambery, vanillic notes when it's drying down. And along the way, you have some musk as well, and a little bit of a rosy touch. Not too much with the rose. But in the end, it's mostly about the lavender, but it's lavandin and lavender. There are 2 different kinds of lavender type notes. And then, of course, the resinous, ambery, vanillic notes when it's drying down. It's a really comforting fragrance. Definitely unisex, but targeted to men. So this is CARON, Pour un Homme de CARON from 1934, created by Ernest Daltroff. Moving on to the house of Guerlain. This is Habit Rouge Eau de Toilette. So this is the latest version in this square bottle. What do you guys think of this bottle? So they redid all their bottles and made them all uniform in these size bottles. So they've changed the bottles so many times already. Come on, Guerlain, keep the bottles the same. I kind of prefer the other bottles personally. I don't really care for the L'Homme Ideal collection bottles, which is basically what they did. But I really love the scent. I think it's grown on me even further than when I remember really enjoying it. So lately, I really like the lemony, vanillic, rosy, woody combo of this fragrance. Initially launched in '65, and I believe they reformulated it in the early 2000s. And it's created by Jean-Paul Guerlain, who is part of the Guerlain family. But this is featuring notes of lemons, amber, bergamot, vanilla, spices, leather, neroli, bitter orange, cedar, lime, and patchouli. So there was a time I really liked the EDP. Now I've switched back to liking and enjoying the EDT. I'm not sure why. Also check out the Rouge Privé of this series of fragrances because it's super fantastic. And then of course now they have the Parfum as well. So it's a really great long-standing fragrance, classic, but still I think it's modern enough for a younger generation person to enjoy fragrances like this. It's a great fusion of citruses, vanillic notes, warm notes, woods, and citruses, and rose together. So this is Habit Rouge Eau de Toilette, and the story with that is that they were trying to recreate a male take on Shalimar, which has been a very popular fragrance for Guerlain from over 100 years ago. Alright, next up, going to the house of LAROCHE. This is DRAKKAR Noir, this one right here. This was my 80s fragrance. I wore 4 bottles in the 80s, I remember one of them I dropped and broke, so I had to buy another one to replace it because I was obsessed with this fragrance. Started wearing it around 1984 on to around 1989, but this is launched in 1982. Originally there was DRAKKAR from the late 70s or mid 70s, and then they did DRAKKAR Noir, which is a really fantastic long-standing fragrance created by Pierre Wargnye, featuring notes of lavender, lemon zest, patchouli, rosemary, verbena, coriander, fir balsam, juniper. It's once again a fougere fragrance, but this is in the 80s powerhouse style. Totally different than this particular one. And you know, I've never gotten my nose on the late 1800 version of Fougere Royale, so it could have been a lot more older smelling. This is a very modern fougere now, the HOUBIGANT. This one still smells a bit classic, and recently, a couple of years ago, they launched a flanker, which is also really great. It really reminds me of the original with just some modern touches, but for me, it's an absolute favorite fragrance of mine. It never goes out of style. It's a really, really great men's fragrance. I think also to this day, it still smells pretty good. It is watered down. It's not as beefy as it used to be, but still one of the best men's fragrances out there and still smells great today. So this is DRAKKAR Noir from the house of LAROCHE. Moving on to the house of Chanel, it's Egoiste from 1990. Really wonderful offering. This is still standing around today, although they've never really made flankers of this. They made Platinum Egoiste around 3 years after the original Egoiste, although this was actually also a fragrance called Bois Noir from 1989. I think it was launched, discontinued, and then turned into this. So this is created by Jacques Polge and Francois Demaché. I'm going to tell you a little tidbit about Francois Demaché in a bit, but featuring notes of cinnamon, sandalwood, rose, tobacco, rosewood, vanilla, carnation, leather, and ambrette. Sure, it has gotten butchered. It is thinner now, much thinner, but to me, it totally takes me back to the very early 90s. It's a rosy, spicy, cinnamony sandalwood fragrance with musky touches as well. And if you're looking for a very stronger take on this, I shouldn't say very, but a much more potent version, there's a fragrance out there called Santal Noir from Dior, created by Francois Demaché. So Francois Demaché created this with Jacques Polge during his time at Chanel. So then later at Dior, he created Santal Noir. To me, it's a beefier version of Egoiste, so if you're looking for something a little more potent and you really love this, please do check out Santal Noir. It will remind you of Egoiste. It's not identical, but to me, I get Egoiste touches when I wear Santal Noir. But either way, I think Chanel Egoiste still smells wonderful to this day, and I think there are, you know, many fans of that particular fragrance, as it is a long-standing fragrance. All right, and then we're going to the fragrance Issey Miyake's L'Odyssée pour Homme, this one right here. Are you familiar with this one? I wore quite a bit. I wore every single one of these fragrances, so I'm really happy with this collection of fragrances, and hopefully those of you that are into male targeted releases are also wearing these fragrances. And also recently I did a video on a collection of Issey Miyake men's fragrances. I'm surprised how great this L'Odyssée still smells great today. It's 1994, created by Jacques Cavalier, featuring notes of yuzu, lemon, tangerine, water lily, nutmeg, spices, sandalwood, vetiver, and amber accord. So to me, this is a very watery yuzu aquatic thing. It was taking the citrus and woods and light amber touches, and even aromatics, I should say, into a watery direction, but not going into the marine sector, but just watery. And I feel like it's very refreshing, it's invigorating, and to this day I think the fragrance still smells pretty good. I know it's been butchered, I know it's gotten thinner, it's not like what it used to be. There used to be a lot more zing when I wore it back in the mid-90s, but still I think it's still pretty good the way they've kept it, and I think it's definitely a great fragrance, and it has great longevity, staying around with us for 30 years. This is 1994, and I mean, it launched in 94, and we're 2024, so it's been around for that long. Are you a fan of this one? Do let me know, put a comment down below. But moving on to the year 2006 and 2009, we're going to Hermes. It's Terre de Hermes. And I'm featuring the Parfum version here from 2009, but originally it launched in 2006. created by Jean-Claude Lena. I wore so much of this one, and I've turned on many friends to this fragrance when I was not reviewing fragrances like in the mid-2000s, well, towards the end of the 2000s. And to this day, the parfum is still my favorite. I like its intensity, and it's the zingy, citrusy touches, and the woods that are in here as well. It features cedar, shiso, grapefruit, and benzoin. So the benzoin creates this warm, ambery effect when it's drying down. But that grapefruit gives me that zing and spice that I like, which is also present in Issey Miyake's L'Odyssée pour Homme. The fragrances here are really amazing fragrances, and I feel like this Terre d'Hermès from Hermès is still a very modern fragrance, and it hasn't gone through too many reformulations, and we still have a really, really great fragrance here from Hermès for men. If you are not a fan of this one, let me know why you don't like it, and if you are a fan, do let me know what it is that you like about Terre d'Hermès. And you know, there's been 3 or 4 different flankers. One is even discontinued, which I really, really enjoyed. But now we've got that Eau Givrée, which is really nice. It's a really ice-cold take on the original Hermès Terre d'Hermès. But for me, the Eau de Toilette and the Parfum are the ones that smell just like that DNA, rather the other two smell a little different. So up next, going to the house of Amouage, it's Reflection Man from 2007, launched 1 year after Hermès Terre d'Hermès and Eau de Toilette came out. Are you a fan of Reflection Man? Reflection Man is a really great fragrance. In fact, it's my very first Amouage. It could either be this one or Lyric Man. I can't remember. I think this was my very first Amouage. Created by Louis Suizac, it features notes of jasmine, neroli, sandalwood, orris, vetiver, rosemary, pink pepper, cedar, and patchouli. And I've always mentioned this in videos. To me, it reminds me a cross between Le Male and Fleur de Male from the house of Jean-Paul Gaultier. Because even though it doesn't have that lavendery touch, I get kind of similarities between the two fragrances. And it's a great take on this very powdery, male-targeted fragrance, which I feel like it's definitely kind of gender-bending. It could be, you know, worn by a woman as well. But the new version is not so similar to this. It's a little different, which is fine. I enjoy it. But this version, it's what it's all about. If you like a more concentrated, ambery, resinous take on Reflection Man, try that. But you won't be reminded too much of the original Reflection Man. And to me, this has a lot of meaning because it's when I was first starting out reviewing fragrances here is when I started first speaking about Reflection Man. And still, to this day, smells wonderful. Then moving on to the house of YSL, it's La Nuit de l'Homme. But I'm featuring the Bleu Electrique version here. And I consider this one of the best men's fragrances ever created. I prefer it much more than YSL L'Homme, which launched like 3 years prior to this. And the Bleu Electrique is the one I have right now. But the fragrance is all about cardamom. If you're a fan of cardamom, you've got to check out the series La Nuit de l'Homme. So, launched in 2009 originally, it's Anne Flippo, Pierre Wargnye, Dominique Ropion, and it features notes of cardamom, lavender, cedar, bergamot, caraway, and vetiver. For me, the original has gotten very light, so the Bleu Electrique version is a little bit more potent, even though they're both Eau de Toilette concentration. But I feel like since the Bleu Electrique version is a bit more modern, just launched, it doesn't act thin like the original does, which, again, both of them are the same concentration. You can tell the difference between the original, it's gotten watered down. Here, this is what they've delivered us, and you're not noticing any differences. But either way, YSL's La Nuit de l'Homme, either the original or the Bleu Electrique. If you can get the Bleu Electrique, do. Because I feel like I said, it's a little more potent, but a great fragrance, long-standing for men. And moving on to the house of Creed, it's Royal Oud, this one right here. I feel like this never goes out of style. I think it's a really great, classy, masculine offering from the house of Creed. I first bought, actually Creed's Royal Oud was my very first Creed that I purchased around 2013. So this launched in 2011, created by Julien Rascanet. Cedar, pink pepper, sandalwood, musk, angelica, galbanum, lemon, and oud are the notes. And to me, it's just a very, very classy take on a masculine fragrance. So originally, this collection was targeted male, but now I think they're calling it unisex. I'm still featuring it here as a male-targeted release. Some of the databases say for men, some of them say men and women. I think this is, to me, a masculine offering, but a woman can totally pull it off. I'm not saying don't wear it if you're a woman. But to me, again, it's a really, really nice fragrance. When I wear this fragrance, though, it acts a bit green, a bit vegetal. The oud is kind of nondescript. It's not very strong, if at all. And whatever oud that's in here gives me a bit of a smoky, almost like an ashy kind of a vibe. but all very woody, spicy, musky, and vegetal with the angelica note. And of course the galbanum, because these two notes are kind of vegetal, and the galbanum is also adding a layer of greenness. But either way, Royal Oud is a fantastic fragrance that never goes out of style for men. And then moving on to the house of Parfums de Marly, it's Herod. This is also used to be targeted male, but now it's saying it is for men and women. Again, I feel like it is quite unisex. I feel like Herod is even more unisex than Royal Oud. No problem for a woman to wear it. But when I first bought these fragrances, it always was referred to as a male release. And this collection in this bottle was for men. Same thing with the Royal Oud from Creed. But Parfums de Marly's Herod is my very first Parfums de Marly fragrance, and to this day it's my favorite. I absolutely love the fragrance, and I think Olivier Pechot created a really great style or DNA, which he later copied for Essential Parfums called Divine Vanille, where they amped up the vanilla there. Here it's about tobacco and vanilla with cinnamon, osmanthus, labdanum, vetiver, incense, pepper. The only negative about this fragrance, it is a bit closer to the skin. It doesn't have that kind of screaming quality that I sometimes like in fragrances, but as a smell, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's an amazing, and it still never goes out of style for me. I absolutely love this fragrance. It's sad that the perfumer Olivier Pechot passed away last year, but he's left us some amazing fragrances. Not only this, but several, if at all a lot, over at Diptyque. But either way, this is Herod from the house of Parfums de Marly. Wonderful offering. And then going to the year 2013, it's Bentley for Men Intense. Yes, I absolutely love this fragrance. It never goes out of style for me. I really love the way it smells, and the dry down is really intoxicating. Created by Nathalie Lorson in 2013, it features notes of incense, leather, benzoin, rum, black pepper, patchouli, woodsy notes, cinnamon, cedar, and bay leaf. For me, it's the fusion of the smoky touches, the leathery touches, and the aromatic greenness with the booziness and the ambery touches and spices. It is a fantastic fragrance, and as I said, it's super sexy, and I love the dry down. It's all about the dry down for me here. Although when you first spray it, it's amazing. I love that first blast. But this to me, I love the whole entire wear. It smells really great. And it's a cheapie too. You can get it for really inexpensive, and it still never goes out of style here for me. This is Bentley for Men Intense from the house of Bentley. And then this next fragrance came out in 2014, created by Francois Demachet. This is Dior Homme Parfum. Never goes out of style. One of the best fragrances ever created. I think it is my favorite fragrance. I know I say that all the time, but it is a very intoxicating and addicting smell. I can't get enough of this stuff, and I love it. And it's 2014, originally created by Francois Demachet. They brought it back in 2020. It's Florentine Iris, Ceylonese Sandalwood, Leather, Ambrette, Agarwood, Cedar, Rose, and Orange. To me, it's the best example of lipstick smeared in a leather purse or bag or something. So it smells a bit makeup-y, but it's very leathery and also vanillic and musky too. Super amazing fragrance. This is Dior Homme Parfum from the house of Dior, launched in 2014. So we've got two more fragrances left. The next fragrance we're talking about is from the house of Lalique, another Nathalie Lorson created fragrance. This is Encre Noire à la Extrême. Really do love this version of Encre Noire. I love it because it smells so luxurious compared to the previous version, which to me is good. I've worn plenty of it, but I felt like they took it into a luxury direction here with this version. Launched in 2015, it features vetiver, incense, cypress, elemi, benzoin, sandalwood, patchouli, orris, and bergamot. And this particular fragrance is also fairly inexpensive. You can get it for around 30 bucks for 100. You know, it's vetiver, but it's a luxurious take on vetiver. It will remind you of Sycamore from the house of Chanel as well. So it's a great alternative for that fragrance. But if you like the idea of dark, woodsy, earthy, smoky take, an ambery take on vetiver, you should definitely try Encre Noire à la Extrême. But you know, the original is fine as well. The original is totally fine. The whole collection, I think, is pretty solid for budget, but very quality male targeted fragrances. And then I'm going to end the list here with a Louis Vuitton fragrance launched in 2021. It is Imagination. I actually reviewed this fragrance and I didn't give it a very positive review. I did not like it. It's one of the fragrances that grew on me later. I got addicted to the smell. It's a fragrance once again created by Jacques Cavalier, and I should say he created l'Odyssée pour Homme back in 1994, and then he got the gig at Louis Vuitton in 2016. And he's known for creating these watery fragrances, and I can see he transferred over his style from l'Odyssée pour Homme to the collections here. When you smell these fragrances, there's a watery, kind of like a watery, liquidy smell about them. And this fragrance is Ambrox, black tea, neroli, cedar, bergamot, ginger, cinnamon. I felt like it was a boring fragrance. It just didn't do it for me. But for some strange reason, a couple of times I pulled it and I wore it just as a dumb reach. Now I'm addicted to the smell. It smells super fantastic. And I don't think this will ever go out of style. I think it's a great release from Louis Vuitton. Let me know if you're a fan of Imagination. Put a comment down below. If it's not this, what do you like from the Louis Vuitton collection? Put a comment down below so I can find out. And also, recently I sampled Lovers from the house. Didn't really care for it much. I think this is much better comparison to Lovers. But really great. Easy wear. Super sexy when it's off of you. Wear it in the heat. Oh, you can wear it all year round as a great signature scent. But Imagination, I think, never goes out of style. Even though it's only been here for 3 years, I don't think it's going to go out of style. It's very popular out there. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. 15 men's fragrances that never go out of style. Stay tuned for part 2 sometime in the next 2-3 weeks. And let me know what your thoughts are on these fragrances. Do you enjoy them? And let me know, what do you consider men's fragrances that never go out of style? Some modern ones. Hopefully you'll put down some classic ones. I put several classic ones here, going all the way back to the late 1800s, as I said, but some 80s and 90s fragrances as well. So do that, put a comment down, we'll find out. But either way, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video, please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.